Namaste and good morning, India. Welcome to your daily update of top Indian headlines brought to you by OneRead.news. This is calm, clear, and factual news. Namaskar.
Okay, so let's get right into it. If you just glance at the headlines today, they might seem like a totally random jumble of events, right? But I want you to look a little closer with me. When you do, a really fascinating picture starts to emerge. It's the picture of a nation in a constant, dynamic conversation with itself. Seriously, think of it like a giant family discussion happening all across the country. In one corner of the room, you've got this very serious, very intense debate going on about the fundamental rules of the House. That's our core institutions, the courts, the government, kind of hashing out their boundaries. Then, in another room, you have the strategists, looking at the big picture, planning for the family's future security and finances. And yeah, like any family, there are some squabbles. People are pointing out where the system has some cracks, where things aren't working as they should. But then, and this is my favorite part, you also see these incredible, heartwarming stories of people just helping each other out, finding these brilliant solutions to problems without anyone even asking them to. So today, we're not just going to read the news. We're going to pull up a chair and listen in on that great national conversation.
All right, first up, Part 1. We're calling it India's Democratic Tug of War. This is all about that healthy, and I mean really essential, push and pull between our country's biggest institutions. This is where they test and define the boundaries of power. And this slide, this captures that tension perfectly. It's like watching a tug of war, but the goal isn't to make the other side fall. The goal is to find that perfect center of balance. So on one side of the rope, you've got the judiciary pulling. The Supreme Court just made a huge move. They've laid down a clear 3-month deadline for governors and the president to act on bills passed by state legislatures. Now think about what that really means. They're basically saying, hey, you can't just let a bill sit on a desk and gather dust forever. It's a powerful statement to make sure the gears of democracy and lawmaking don't get jammed up. Now on the other side of the rope, you have the executive branch, the government, pulling right back. They're issuing a very public, very clear warning, reminding the courts that they, quote, can't assume powers the Constitution is not vested in them. This is the government drawing its own line in the sand, saying, whoa, hold on. That's judicial overreach. It's a classic check and a classic balance playing out for all of us to see.
So this brings us right to the heart of the matter, to the big question this slide is asking. Who actually gets to set these boundaries? And you know, in a democracy like ours, the answer is wonderfully messy. Everyone does, all the time. This friction we're seeing, this tug of war, it is not a sign that the system is broken, far from it. It's actually a sign that the system is working exactly as it's supposed to. You could say it's a feature, not a bug. When the Supreme Court sets that deadline on bills, it's pushing back against what it sees as a potential delay from the executive, making sure the voice of the legislature is heard. And when the government pushes back, reminding the court of its own constitutional limits, it's defending its own turf, its own authority. This constant negotiation, this dance, this is the very thing that stops any single branch from getting too powerful and throwing the whole system out of whack. It's the sound of democracy, just humming along and fine-tuning itself in real time.
So while the big institutions are debating the rules of the game, the political players are on the ground, moving their pieces on the chessboard. And trust me, every single move is calculated. On one side of the board, you've got the opposition India bloc. They're holding a super important strategy meeting, hosted by Mallikarjun Kharge. Now this is not just some routine get-together. There's a vice presidential election that suddenly appeared on the horizon, plus you've got grassroots movements like the Vote Adhikar Yatra picking up steam in Bihar. So for them, it is absolutely crucial to get on the same page, to align their tactics perfectly. Now let's look at the other side of the board. The ruling NDA has made a very, very shrewd move. They've put forward C.P. Radhakrishnan as their candidate for vice president. Now he's the governor of Maharashtra, but here's the key part. He's a veteran BJP leader from Tamil Nadu. This isn't just about filling a chair. The sources are calling this a clear southern gambit. It's a strategic play designed to make inroads in Tamil Nadu and the wider south, with an eye already on the 2026 state elections. See, every move has layers.
Okay, moving on to Part 2, Securing Tomorrow's India. We're shifting gears now from those internal debates and political games to how the country is looking outwards and building for the long haul.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. You might have seen these 3 headlines pop up separately and thought nothing of them, but when you put them together like this,
Suddenly, you see a really clear three-step strategy for the future taking shape. Let's break it down. Step 1. Secure your own neighborhood. This is the foundation. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri is in Nepal, meeting with the top leadership. This is the neighborhood first policy in action. It's all about shoring up your alliances and making sure your own backyard is stable. Okay, step 2. Diversify your global friendships. India's External Affairs Minister is deep in talks with his counterpart from South Korea. And what's the main topic? Economic security and, you guessed it, resilient supply chains. In today's world, you just can't be dependent on one or two countries for everything. It's about building a whole web of reliable partners. It's just smart planning. And finally, step 3, innovate at home. So you've got a stable neighborhood, you've got diverse global partners. What's the last piece of the puzzle? Building a self-reliant, sustainable future right here. And that is exactly what Uttar Pradesh is doing by launching its first green hydrogen plant. See how it all connects? Stabilize the region, secure global trade, build a green future at home. It's a plan.
So let's zoom in on this green hydrogen thing for a second, because the really amazing part isn't just what it is, but how they're doing it. First, the what. Green hydrogen, in simple terms, is super clean fuel. You use renewable energy, like solar, to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. The only byproduct is water vapor, no carbon emissions. It's basically the holy grail of clean energy. But here's the genius part, the thing that makes this project in Gorakhpur so clever. The biggest headache with hydrogen is getting it from point A to point B. Building a whole new network of special pipelines would cost a fortune and take forever. So what did they do instead? They decided to just cleverly blend the green hydrogen directly into the city's existing natural gas pipeline network. It's this pragmatic, brilliant shortcut that lets them start cutting carbon emissions right away using the pipes they already have. That's not just innovation in technology, it's innovation in thinking.
Okay, on to part 3, stories from the ground up. We've seen the big picture stuff, the constitutional debates, the grand national strategies. Now let's bring it all down to earth and see how this stuff actually affects daily life. And, more importantly, how people are fighting back and innovating.
You know, any big system, no matter how well it's designed, is gonna have some cracks. And here we're seeing two very different kinds of cracks appear. First, over in Bihar, you've got this huge controversy over the discovery of 22 lakh, that's 2.2 million, dead voters still on the electoral rolls. Now, the Election Commission was quick to clarify this isn't the case of active, recent fraud, but it reveals a massive systemic inefficiency. It tells you that for years, records just weren't being updated properly. And a screw-up like that, even if it's not malicious, is the perfect recipe for political mistrust. It just fuels all sorts of allegations and chips away at people's faith in the process. Then we look over to the Northeast. The Northeast Students' Union is gearing up for another wave of protests against illegal immigration. This is not a new problem. It's a deep, historical anxiety for the region. The fact that these protests are still happening tells you that generations of policy have just failed to solve the underlying issue. It's a crack in the system that's been there for a long, long time.
And sometimes, a crack in the system isn't just a crack, it's a chasm. This quote on the screen, it just perfectly and painfully captures the story of military cadets who suffer these terrible, career-ending injuries during their training. Just try to put yourself in their shoes for a second. You dedicate your life to serving the country, you push your body to its absolute limit, and then you get medically discharged before you're officially commissioned as an officer. And because of that one little technicality, you fall into this bureaucratic black hole. You don't qualify as an ex-serviceman, you don't get proper financial support or medical care for injuries you got while serving your country. The situation got so bad that the Supreme Court itself had to step in. They took up the case on their own. It's a rare move called taking suo motu cognizance. It's the highest court in the land basically saying, this injustice is so obvious and so great we can't wait for someone to ask for help. We have to act now. It's a powerful and frankly sad example of the judiciary trying to patch up what one source so perfectly called a heartbreaking governance gap.
But here's the thing. For every crack you find, for every problem, there are people on the ground trying to build a solution. And this is where the story gets truly inspiring. Check this out. In Mumbai, you've got a couple of big challenges. How do you help women become financially independent? And at the same time, how do you make the massive street food industry cleaner and safer for everyone? So what's the response? Mali, India's very first clean street food hub run entirely by women. This is so much more than a food court. It is a revolutionary idea. They take women from local self-help groups, give them professional training in food safety and business management, the whole shebang, and then give them a platform to become entrepreneurs. In one single, brilliant stroke, they are empowering women, raising public health standards, and helping formalize a huge piece of the informal economy. This is what grassroots innovation looks like when it's firing on all cylinders. Absolutely incredible.
And finally, part 4, Global Echoes, Local Bright Spots. For our last part, let's zoom out for just a second to catch what's happening around the world before we bring it all back home to end on some really positive stories.
So what are the global echoes we're hearing today? Well, in Israel, a deeply human drama is playing out. Citizens are staging nationwide strikes, blocking roads, not for politics, but with one single desperate demand: for their government to make a deal and bring the hostages in Gaza home. Over in South America, Bolivia is holding pivotal elections that could very well bring an end to a nearly 2-decade era of socialist rule, a potential political earthquake for the whole region. And in the world of high-stakes geopolitics, the US is offering Ukraine what it's calling game-changing security guarantees. They're even using language like Article 5-like, which is a direct nod to NATO's all-for-one defense promise. It's a move that could completely redraw the security map of Eastern Europe. No doubt about it, it's a world very much in motion.
And amidst all that global noise, let's bring it back home to celebrate something that is absolutely essential for any healthy society: telling the truth. The acclaimed, and let's be honest, often controversial documentary filmmaker Rakesh Sharma is being honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award. Sharma is famous for his fearless work, especially his film Final Solution, which documented the 2002 Gujarat riots. Now, getting an award like this isn't just a pat on the back for being a good filmmaker. It is a powerful statement. It's a celebration of a career spent choosing the hard path, the path of social justice, of holding a mirror up to society and forcing us all to look at our most uncomfortable truths. In a world full of noise, celebrating the courage to tell these important stories, well, that's more important than ever.
And speaking of making a real difference, let's end with this. This is just beautiful. We talked about grassroots solutions, and this might be the best one yet. In Mandya, Karnataka, there's a community-driven app called Samaritans of Mandya, and it is literally saving lives. The idea is so simple but so profound. It's a network that connects anyone having an emergency, a medical crisis, a road accident, anything, with trained local volunteers right in their area who can get there in minutes, often way faster than an ambulance. The quote on the screen just says it all so perfectly. It leverages technology to operationalize the age-old principle of love thy neighbor. It's taking one of the most basic, most timeless human values and plugging it into the 21st century.
So as we wrap things up today, as we finish listening in on this national conversation, this is the final powerful thought I want to leave you with. Yeah, the headlines showed us friction in our democracy. They showed us cracks in our systems. But you know what? They also showed us something so much more powerful. They showed us people like Rakesh Sharma dedicating their lives to the hard work of telling truth. They showed us the women of the Mali Food Hub who are building community and their own futures from the ground up. And they showed us the people of Mandya using a simple app and their own time to literally save lives. Telling truth, building community, saving lives. You know, that is an incredibly hopeful and powerful place to end. Follow us on Spotify and YouTube to listen to this explainer every morning at 8 a.m.
Thanks for joining us today. Our mission here is a simple one: to foster thinkers, not followers, by providing you with calm, clear, and factual news. We'll see you tomorrow for the next one. Namaskar.